How's it going, guys? So this is going to be my first video when it comes to coding. This is a bit different to what I used to do. I have been coding for a very long time, and I pretty much always sort of wanted to do these videos. I was like, fuck it, I'll just, start doing this. So here I am. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 3 topics. The first one is going to be variables. The second one, functions. Functions have another name, which they refer to as well as methods. You might have heard them being called methods before. Typically, they're either called functions or methods, but they're pretty much the same thing. And passing parameters, because that's also a pretty important thing with methods, is that you need to know how to pass parameters, because that's one of the most important things with functions and methods, is that the parameters are like a big part of them. So you need to be able to know how to use the parameters. And then I'd say the next thing would probably be to call those functions. Calling functions / methods, obviously it would be the exact same as this part. When it comes to variables they're basically, I'm going to give you an example because it'll be a lot easier to explain. Let's talk in terms of relating it to algebra. I personally hate algebra, but it's very similar to algebra. X isn't just X. X is sort of like a reference to the actual value. If I were to do label x equals 0, this is a variable, and pretty much what it's doing is it's taking this key and this value and it's storing this key within the memory, and then this key is a pointer to this value. So that when we were to use x is a pointer to a number, so that x, if we were to print x, it will print 0. Because x isn't just x. If we didn't do that, then it wouldn't know what x is, and it'll just print 0. But because we've already defined what x is, it's very straightforward. Basically, it's just taking this key. So these are typically called keys, right? It's taking that variable name, storing it within the memory, and then when we were to reference that variable, it points to whatever we have assigned to it. Now, also, while we're on the topic of variables, there are 2 different type of variables. There's this one that we've just used, which is called a primitive type variable, and then there's another one called a reference type variable. Now, the difference between these are, it's a little bit self-explanatory if you were to read the reference type variable. Basically, what a reference type variable is it's a variable that refers to a particular directory or path that refers to an instance. It just needs to refer to something. So if I were to do local, for example, let's go to the workspace and let's get the base plate. This big thing all here, this is the base plate. This is like the stock base plate. So to get the base plate, we'll do local base plate, and then we'll type in the service of where it's in. So it'd be workspace. You can do game get service workspace, but no one does that. Let's be real. Everyone just uses workspace, or at least that's what I use, because it's the exact same thing. There's no difference. I've always used workspace.baseplate. So this is right here a reference type variable, because what our variable here, it's not just storing just a value like x, it's storing a reference to a particular instance, and then it's going to store this in the memory assigned to baseplate, obviously. So whenever we were to call baseplate now, it's going to use workspace.baseplate, and it's just going to return back the baseplate, and we can now access the baseplate. And if we want to change like the color to, we'll use brick color for now. Brick color, let's do red. You can see it changed to red. Those are the 2 different type of variables. You can also forcefully assign a type to these variables as well. Let's say I didn't want this to be a number, right? What if I wanted this to be a string? And now if I print x, obviously it's not, but as you can see, x is not a string, because this is how you forcefully assign types to variables, is that you would do local x, and then you'd use a semicolon, and then you'd assign the type, which here I put string, but obviously it's not a string. Now that we have those, I'm just going to get rid of the primitive type because I don't need that. Let's move on to the functions and methods and passing parameters. functions in Lua, or especially in Roblox, there's so many different ways of writing a function. I think there's like 4 ways that I know of to write a function. There's the way that I use the most is just doing local function, my function. This is just what I use. There are other ways of defining functions, like just a regular function. There's also my function equals function, and then there's you can do the same thing. You can do local my function, this function. But this is typically what I use. I just use local function. It's easy, it's straightforward, and it's not complicating. It works, it's fine. Let's make a function to change the color of this one. Now parameters, this is where parameters come in. In these parentheses, or the open and closing bracket, these are where parameters go. So a function, it's pretty much a block of code. Functions are manually executed code that only runs when it's told to. So here I can pass in a color, and then I can do baseplate.color equals color. If I were to go down here and do calling functions / methods, I can do color. This is how you call a function. So it'd just be the name of your function. It has to be the exact name. As you can see, I passed the color, so I need to pass a color. And this says color 3. So we need to use color 3. But from RGB, let's just keep it as black. And let's see if that's correct. That's exactly the color that we just picked. You can also add ones for other things like the size of the baseplate size, and then we can do vector 3 new, and we can do like 25, 25, 25, and then that would just be a lot smaller, as you can see. That is pretty much everything. I've covered variables, the different type of variables, the functions, calling those functions. Also, you'd want to use functions. Functions are very important because there's a very important principle when it comes to coding, and that is the dry principle, which is don't repeat yourself. Functions make that principle a lot easier to follow because you've already written the code once and you don't need to write it again. Basically, that's what a function is. If you're doing something more than once, I would recommend making a function for it. If there's any chance like you know that you're about to like write the same thing over and over and over and over, that is the worst practice. Use variables, use functions. So you want to make sure that you know when to use functions. Typically, you'd know when you want to use a function. Let's say you were to create a function for color, because let's say you wanted to change the color 20 different times. Now, instead of having to write color 3 and then having to, copy and paste this 25 times, we don't have to do that anymore. All we need to do is just call color again, and then the same thing. It's a lot more organized and clean. Well, that's pretty much everything that I've covered. Variables, the different variable types, and then the functions and methods. Sorry, I forgot to mention, variables in Lua and Roblox, it's a dynamic language, meaning that you don't need to worry about assigning a type to a variable every time, because Lua and Roblox is a dynamic language. It will automatically assign itself a type if it can. Like here, obviously this is an instance. If I were to do baseplate, it's going to return back a par because that's what it is. Because Roblox can detect what this is and it can automatically assign it. If it didn't automatically assign it and you needed to assign it, you can do the colon and assign it to the par. And then if you were to do baseplate, it would come up with the par. But typically, you don't need to worry about it. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if there's anything that you guys would like to see in future videos, whether that's other advanced topics, more beginner friendly topics. I can cover pretty much anything when it comes to coding side of things, so don't hesitate to ask if you want me to cover anything. Yeah, and I'll see you guys in the next video.